Hey, what's up, YouTube? It's Sean Carter here. And what I want to talk to y'all about today is what I consider to be a bubble forming in the AI market. But before you cuss me out, before you call me names, I'm just going to ask that you hear me out. But let me make one thing clear. I'm not saying that AI is going anywhere. In fact, AI is actually here to stay. So I'm not saying that AI is going anywhere. My analysis about why AI is potentially forming a bubble has everything to do with market psychology. Now, let me explain what I mean by that. See, in markets, it is a well-known fact that the more that the public becomes involved, the more of a bubble that market becomes. To put it differently, what this means is that when the public becomes involved in a market, let's say that there's a bull market that's been going on for a long time. When the public becomes involved, you can pretty much say at that point that the bull market is pretty much over. But you got to keep in mind that the bull market may not end tomorrow, next week, next month, or even next year. In fact, the bull market could probably go on for a pretty good little minute after the public gets involved. So you got to keep that in mind as well and not get that misunderstood. So on that note, let me show you all what I mean. For example, let's look at cryptocurrencies, for instance. Let's go back to the year 2017. Now, the cryptocurrency market had gotten to a point where everybody was talking about it. It's like people who are not even speculators or traders, investors, or whatever, people who are not even involved in the financial markets were talking about investing and trading in cryptocurrencies. So at that point, that's when cryptos became a bubble. And like clockwork, crypto shortly afterward, it crashed. Now let's go to another example. Let's take this one back to the dot-com bubble, back when tech stocks were all the rage. This was like back when the internet had first taken off and you had like a lot of these dot-com companies that were pretty much startups, and they were getting like these ridiculously high valuations and stuff, and I'm talking about the market was just crazy, right? So to make a long story short, it was at this time when now the public started to become involved in these tech stocks, and when the public began to talk about it and they began to get heavily involved, that's when the dot-com bubble collapsed. Now let's go to another crisis. Let's go now to the 2007-2008 subprime real estate crisis. Now this go round, this was when the real estate market was like red hot, right? And everybody was pretty much making money hand over fist by, buying and flipping real estate. And again, this was one of those things that started off where you just had the big players who were involved heavily at first, and then the public all of a sudden got involved, and you should pretty much know how this goes by now, right? So when the public got heavily involved, that's when the market started to collapse. At this point, you should pretty much understand the pattern by now. Because see, if I really wanted to, I could go all the way back to 1929, tulipomania and all that kind of stuff, but it's unnecessary because every market cycle pretty much follows that same template where large players and institutions, mainly those who have the resources to do so, are heavily involved in a market very early on. And then as time goes on, then the public starts to become aware of that particular market. And it is at that point when the public becomes involved that the large players decide to liquidate their holdings and eventually leaves the public holding the bag. Because it is at that phase in the market cycle, it's when greed has taken over, because the public now believes that there's easy money to be made. So greed takes over, and then the market forces just pretty much do what they do. As a general rule of thumb, here's what I would say. When any market gets to the point where outsiders, starts talking heavily about that particular market, that should be a pretty good indication that the market may now be in bubble territory. Like, for instance, you go to the coffee shop or something like that, and the person who's the cashier, for example, they're telling you, hey man, invest in this AI stock. Or the person standing in line behind you, hey man, invest in this AI stock. Or, whatever the bubble is at that time. When stuff like that starts to happen, that's a pretty good indication that you are in bubble territory. And what I'm saying is that with AI, with the AI market right now, it's starting to look that way. It's getting to a point now where people who are not even involved in the financial markets, they seem to have a whole lot of advice about investing in AI, and they have all kinds of advice to give you about AI and stuff. So to me, that screams bubble territory. Now, again, I'm not saying that AI is going anywhere, but what I'm saying is that based on what I understand about market psychology, AI just may be entering bubble territory. At this point, I'm going to wrap the video up. I would like to thank you all for tuning in and checking out the content. And I would ask that if you found this content to be helpful, like the video, share the video, leave your thoughts in the comments section, So with that being said, thanks again, and I will catch you all on the next one.